Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I am so excited because I'm going to be trying another Makeup Revolution product. I'm so scared because the last time I did this, it did not go well. Let me swatch this palette so I can get like a glimpse of what I'm getting myself into. And it wasn't swatching. I was like, what am I doing wrong? Okay, maybe with my finger. I mean, it definitely picks up with my finger, but like it does not pick up with the brush at all. And it's definitely not showing up as much as it is showing up on my finger for some reason. Like, do you see this? It just looks all messy. I don't know what they were trying to do with this formula. Today I am playing with something part of Makeup Revolution's permanent line, which is something I haven't done. This is the Makeup Revolution Forever Flawless Birds of Paradise palette. This is like a very colorful palette. Let me go ahead and see how I get in here. This was actually requested of me to try out by a friend of mine. For starters, this comes in a tin, which I think is very, very nice because you don't see even Too Faced do that anymore. Oh shit. Oh, it's just plastic. And then you open it up and here are the shades of this palette. This is actually really, really nice. I will say I didn't know this palette had glitters in it. I'm not a fan of glitters, I will say. So taking off the glitters, you have two shimmers. I actually have three shimmers. So if you're a fan of glitters, this palette comes with two pressed glitters in it. I don't know how that's gonna go, but here are the shades on the palette. So from top to bottom, we have Macaw, Vacay, Take Flight, Exotic, Lovebirds, Rio, Canary, Adventure, Hot Tropic, Budgie, Toucan Play, Island, Tail Feather, Tweet, Fiesta, Cardinal, Jungle, and Cockatoo. I love the addition of the white in here. I think that's perfect to blend out all of these shades. I don't like the pressed glitters. I don't think I'm going to use those. I don't know. I mean, I have to try them for today's video, but other than that, I don't see myself using pressed glitters. It's very dangerous to use on your eyes. You have to be very careful. I don't trust a lot of pressed glitter formulas, so Makeup Revolution's pressed glitter formula doesn't sound very, This palette was $15, so it's part of their permanent line, so I don't see this being the best glitter formula on the market. But if you don't want to use the pressed glitters, you have three shimmers, and this one looks like it'll go with all of these shades. So again, I like the tin. I think this is very heavy duty. I think this is good for travel. You know, if you don't want to take like a nice expensive palette, this is nice because it comes in a tin. Well, I'm gonna try the formula. The packaging is nice for travel. I like to say that I am very good at finessing a formula that's not up to par with other formulas that I've tried, but you need the right tools to be able to do it, so I'm going to go through some products that you may or may not need for this. I recommend using an eye base, not concealer, an eyeshadow base, because a lot of these shades are pressed pigments. I think it's 10 shades out of the 18 that are pressed pigments. So we have Vacay, Exotic, Lovebirds, Rio, Adventure, Toucan Play, Island, Tail Feather, Tweet, and Cardinal, all being pigments in this palette. So you need something that's gonna grab onto those pigments. So I'm gonna take the Gerard Cosmetics Clean Canvas in the shade Fair. And then to make these shimmers and glitters pop, you're gonna need another sticky tacky base to grab onto those shimmers. So I'm going to use the NYX Glitter Primer. You can use any glitter glue you have and an eye base that you like. As long as you have those two, we can try to finesse this palette. Now I'm going to try to do two looks with this palette, although I don't know how this is going to go. But I'm excited to try it out and see for myself because I always like to test things out for myself. So I'm going to go ahead and prime my eyelids and then we can get started with look number one. I'm going to start with this dark purple called Adventure on an E25 brush from Sigma. And I'm packing this on the outer corner and I'm making sure to tap this on because it is a pressed pigment. We're already starting bad, y'all. I don't know, but there's like a splotch here that's darker than the rest. I'm trying to get the entire thing to look like that, but it's just not. This is like a Barney purple Towards the inner portion, I'm going to take this shade. It's called Island and it is a lighter purple. The next shade I want to take is called Take Flight. And I'm going to take this on a smaller E27 brush from Sigma. And I'm putting this right next to that lighter shade called Island. Remember to tap it on because these are more pigmenty types of eyeshadows. And I feel like they perform better when you tap them on. Whereas if you just drag your brush on, I feel like you're just gonna end up taking pigment off. And then for the inner portion, I want to take this lime green called Budgie. So I want to see just how pigmented it is. So I'm going to take that on the same E27 brush. It packed on very nicely on that brush. See how it goes on the eyes. Very nice actually, very nice. I kind of want this to look like a parrot on the eyes because it's like what this palette is like resembling. Now we just need to like blend everything to make it look more cohesive. So I'm gonna take this shade called Tail Feather and I'm gonna use it to like blend out this purple part. And I'm going to use an E33 and I'm just gonna try and blend this out as best as I can. This palette has actually exceeded my expectations because I have really bad luck with Revolution products, but this palette actually surprised me, so that's good. That's always good. It's very colorful and very pretty. If that's your vibe and you don't want to spend more than $15, you can definitely make this work because it is working and it looks very nice. Blending is working out very nicely as well, which I like, and I do have to clean it up just a little bit more. Now with all that blending, I do feel like I did lose a little bit of that purple, so I'm gonna go ahead and add it back in. Make sure you tap it on. For the blue, I'm just gonna mix the shade Take Flight with the white to make a lighter kind of blue so I can blend that out a little better. And that's why I think it's so nice to have the white in here, because sometimes you really want to blend out a shade and you don't have the correct color to blend it out. That's where a white comes in and it's so handy and it just helps you to blend. Like this actually came out so nice. And then I'm gonna take the shade Bungee and I'm also gonna mix that with the white to create a lighter green, and I'm gonna use that to diffuse that lime green in the inner portion just a little. Very cool. Very, very cool. I like it. This looks really cool. I like that. I never thought I'd say that. I want to kind of line my eye with an eyeliner because I want to take the shade Rio and I want to use it as a glitter. We're going to do that. I'm just taking, this is the NYX Epic Ink liner in the shade Black, and I'm just going to start like in the middle and just line my eyes, and I want it to be kind of thick, visible, but not too dramatic. Liner, I know, took me a while, but for you it was probably seconds. I am going to use a shimmer, but it's not going to be anything crazy, so I want to work on the glitter liner first. For the glitter liner, I am going to need a tiny brush, and I think this is the tiniest brush I own. It's from Sigma. It is the Winged Liner EOS 6 brush. This brush is super tiny, and it's just what I need to put some glitter glue and this glitter on my eye. So some glitter glue, and I'm going to take this little brush and I'm going to pack it on the little brush, and we're just going to add some glitter glue over top the black eyeliner that I just put down. This is nerve-wracking. It's like I want it to look perfect and be perfect and all of that, but I've never done a glitter liner before. I'm gonna take the shade Rio from this palette. This is a pressed glitter and it does look pretty chunky, so I'm kind of scared. Pray for me, but it is getting everywhere. It is getting everywhere. But I mean, it's working and it looks pretty cool, so. But it is a pretty chunky glitter, so be careful. Use your glitter primers and be careful because this is chunky. But it is very pretty and I like it as a liner. This is time consuming, but I also have OCD, so I kind of want it to be perfect, and it's kind of getting like all over my eyelashes and everywhere. I don't know, but I kind of expected that, so that is very cool. It kind of looks very disco-y. For shimmer, like everywhere else, I want to take the shade Hot Tropic. And this kind of reminds me of the Moon Dust shadow from Urban, but like a much lighter version. Right, I'm gonna need a brush. to put it in like the areas I can't reach with my fingers. So I'm gonna take an LBE4 from Lunar Beauty. Just gonna pack that where I want it. I like how it's just like a subtle sparkle. It reminds me of the moon dust, but at a fraction of the cost. So that's nice. Okay, so here's look number 1. I like it a lot. It's very colorful without being too overcomplicated. I do think it needs lashes like really badly, but once those are on, I will be right back. Here is look number 1 with the Birds of Paradise palette from Makeup Revolution. I don't think it's half bad. I really don't. I do think that the colors do lose pigment when they are on your eyes, but a good way to contrast that would be to use a white base instead of a colored base, because I feel like that would make the colors appear brighter. Also, the purple is a little harder to blend than the rest of the shades, but purple is harder to formulate than a lot of the other shades, and it is a pigment, so I don't know what I'm gonna do for look number 2. I actually really like this look, I'm not gonna lie. It reminds me of a parrot, as I said. The glitter liner is pretty cool, but the glitter is very chunky, so I don't know how this is gonna remove very well. I'm gonna go ahead and prime my eyes, and we can get started on look number 2. Alright, I've primed my eyes. Let's get started with look number 2. For look number 2, I want to start with this shade called Two Can Play. It's this beautiful orange. This shade is going all over my crease. To blend this orange out, I'm going to go into this yellow called Canary. I'm taking this shade on an e.l.f. Precise blending brush, and I'm just going over all of my edges with this Canary yellow shade. I'm going to take an E27 from Sigma, and I'm going into this shade called Cardinal. And I'm just gonna deepen up this look with this shade. I'm scared for shimmers because these shimmers don't look as nice as this shimmer does. So I'm quite scared, and I have a feeling that we might have to just go over everything with Hot Tropic anyway. So I'm just gonna add a light layer of glitter primer all over my lid, just so we have like a nice sticky base. And the first shimmer I want to take is called Exotic. This is not much of a shimmer at all. It's very muted, but I'm gonna go ahead and pack this towards the end of my eye just to see what I get from this and my NYX glitter glue, and it's not much. Like, wow, this is so bad. This isn't even a shimmer. Do you see what the heck is happening there? I mean, it does have color in it, so it is kind of covering up the lid, which I like, but it's not what I expected. The next shimmer I want to take is called Fiesta down here. It's like this yellow. I'm scared, but I think this one is a better formula than the orange. Very bad. I'm going to go into the LBE4 and the shade Fiesta just so I can pack that wherever I'm missing it. And then, as I said, I'm going to go over everything with the shade Hot Tropic because it is like the sparkliest shade in this palette aside from the glitters. And I feel like this look kind of needs some sparkle to it. So we're just going to add it as like a topper shade, which I feel like is the best part of this palette because it's more of like a see-through topper shade, so it mixes well with all of these shades in this palette. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop on my other lash, complete the rest of my makeup, and I'll be right back. Here is look number 2 with the Birds of Paradise palette from Makeup Revolution. Guys, I actually really like this palette, I'm not gonna lie. I want to get into some lower lash line stuff, so let's start with some of that. I'm going to take the E27 and I'm going to use the shade Two Can Play on this eye, and I'm just applying this all over my lower lash line. The next shade I'm going to take is called Canary right here, and I'm going to put that towards the inner portion. And then I'm going to take the shade Cardinal and apply that towards the outer edge. This eye is going to be a little more complicated. So I'm going to start with the shade Adventure, and I'm going to take this on an E42 brush because it's small and compact. Just what I need to pack on some color. I'm going to take this about halfway, and then I'm going to take the shade called Tail Feather, and I'm going to blend that purple out just a little bit. The next shade I want to take is called Take Flight, and I'm going to pop this right next to that purple. The last shade I want to take is called Budgie, and this is going towards the inner corners. We're just tying it all together. Alright, so I'm going to see what eyeliner I want to put. think it's just gonna be white because it's the easiest to pair with color. And the last thing I'm going to do is put some lower lash line mascara, and for that I'm just going to use the Essence Lash Princess. Here are the finished eye looks, the finished makeup. I'm obsessed. I love this look so much. Let's talk about this palette. So I didn't have a lot of expectations coming into this because this is a very bright palette. This is probably Makeup Revolution's most colorful palette, so like I was scared. And then on top of that, this palette is $15, so it's not expensive at all. So I already did not have like the highest of hopes for this palette. That being said, this palette actually surprised the hell out of me. Now, I didn't use every single shade, but I did use most of the shades. I have to say, pretty good. I have critiques. I have a little bit of some trouble with some shades. The shade Adventure right here was super pigmented, but in some areas it did not want to grab a hold of the color, so I kind of had to sit there and like pack and pack and pack until I was happy with it. It's not a big deal, but I figured it's something to mention. This palette did come with 2 pressed glitters. I did use one of them today. I did like how it looked, but I feel like I do have glitter all over my face and I can see it, so it's a little bothersome to me, but it's not the worst glitter that I've ever used in my life. I feel like you can definitely finesse it to work for you the way I finessed it to work for me, but if you're just gonna put these on your lid, I have to say they feel more like craft glitter more than anything. It is very chunky glitter and it isn't very fine or smooth to the touch. It doesn't apply very well either. You can try to like mix it around and it doesn't do anything, so it's just like a bit of a mess there. So I don't really like the glitters in this. I wish those 2 shades were replaced with some other shimmers that remind me of Hot Tropic, which this shimmer in this palette stole the show. You can use this shimmer with every single shade in here and it will look good because it is like this like more sheer formula of a shimmer. It applies very sheer, so you're not gonna have to worry about it not working with a lot of these colors. It will work with a lot of the colors because it is so sheer. This is what I used on this eye specifically all over the lid, and then I used it as a topper shade on this eye to see like does it work with all of these colors, and it does. It looks really nice and it reminds me of like the Urban Decay Moon Dust shadows in the shade Space Cowboy. That's the vibe that it's giving, so I feel like it's such a nice complementary shade to have with all of these colors. So even though this palette does have 2 pressed glitters, I feel like this shade right here saved the palette for me. The other 2 shimmers in this palette are very, very lackluster. I don't like them at all, but as I said, this shade Hot Tropic definitely did save it because it did add more sparkle, which is what I look for in an eyeshadow. So I feel like that's why this surprised me so much, because I did not expect to have a shadow in there that does remind me of the Moon Dust, and it is very sparkly and pretty, and I did not expect that from this palette at all. The pigmentation from this palette also surprised me. I didn't expect that. I did try the Beetlejuice palette from Makeup Revolution a while back and I hated it. I thought it was the worst palette ever. So I'm really happy to see that a palette from Makeup Revolution's permanent line is actually really nice and it performs very well. And if this is something you're looking to purchase, I recommend it. For the price, I think is really good. You can stack coupons on top of it, especially at Ulta, which I think is very nice. And I think these colors are also complementary to other palettes, other shimmers that you may have in your collection if you're looking for a rainbow palette that isn't too expensive. Overall, I give this palette like an 8 out of 10. I think it performs very well for the price, and it is a very nice like tin. I feel like traveling with this would be very nice because it is so cheap. You don't have to worry about it. If it breaks, you can just buy a new one because it's so cheap. But it actually performed very nicely. As long as you use a good primer and a good glitter primer, I feel like these are gonna work for you. But yeah, that's very exciting. I was kind of scared to play with this, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm thoroughly impressed. Please let me know what you thought of this palette. Do you own this palette? Are you interested in this palette? Please let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. This is the... hold up, my eye is doing some weird shit. I have something on my eye. Please get off. This is the Revolution Makeup Revolution London. We're just gonna go with the Makeup Revolution Birds of Paradise Shadow Palette. This is the Birds of Paradise. You're not gonna really... Hey, I'm here when I say, hey. You better not kill the girl. Hey, 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 it's more than fly. Hey, okay. Okay, I think I got it on. Everywhere. I'm scared. Just to see what I get from this and my next glitter blue. Alright, so I know the lighting is different, but we're testing new things. And I have to say, pretty